Welcome, everybody, um, to the Three County Continuum of Care annual meeting. I am going to go over the agenda real quick. My name is Shondell Diaz. I am the Program Director for Three County Continuum of Care. Today, we're going to have a warm welcome from our COC Board of Director co-chairs, Gina Nini and Brad Gordon. We're going to hear from our keynote speaker, Jay Levy. Then our team and a couple of members of the community and boards are going to do a year in review with you. We're going to talk about some future plans, and then we will finish our day or this meeting with membership votes. And with that, I'm going to pass this over to Gina. Gina.
Thank you, Shondell, and good morning, everyone. My name is Gina Gavoni. I am the Executive Director of Franklin County Regional Housing and also Rural Development, Inc. And I am thrilled to also be co-chair of the COC board alongside Brad Gordon. I think you all know this, but Brad has been doing this for a very long time, and I am still very much learning from him and so happy to have the support and direction of such a strong director in Shondell. This has been a trying year for all of us in this industry and specific in the COC funding world. And I'm just grateful for the energy and the focus and the commitment to the mission of Housing First for the community that we serve. And no one embodies that more or for longer than Brad. So if Brad is here, I'd like to introduce Brad Gordon, Executive Director of Upside 413, and to bring us in.
Brad
And I'm
is
not.
here.
Is he
Brad,
here?
yes, Brad is here. I see Brad. Brad,
Okay. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
we can.
Awesome. So Gina was alluding to the fact that
Maybe
yes, I'm sorry. Okay. So Gina was alluding to the fact that it's been a really challenging year, and for anyone that's been plugged into our national environment and more specifically housing and homelessness is aware of this. And so I think it would be easy to focus on the challenging environment we are currently confronted with, especially relative to the uncertainty around the COC funding. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay away from that for a little bit. And rather, I'm going to focus on what we can do to support. And I'll spend a very brief period of time on this because I think Shondell and I agreed to this, but I'm not positive. But I'm going to do it anyways. Focus on what we can do to promote a housing abundance agenda. And I think it's important. I know the focus of the COC is homelessness, but really the focus in mitigating homelessness is really about providing more housing. And so we absolutely know that we need more housing housing across a broad spectrum of incomes and needs, including supportive housing. And in Berkshire County, we have started to promote the idea of becoming a housing abundance ambassador. And so you're probably wondering what the heck does that involve? Well, I'm gonna give you 25 things that you can do to promote housing abundance in your community. And these are things that I would hope that you would share with your colleagues and friends to promote housing, because we really need to spend as much time on this as possible. So I'll run through these really quickly. We need to raise awareness about the housing crisis and homelessness. We need to foster inclusive housing conversations. We need to combat myths about affordable housing and homelessness. We need to use the media to voice support for more housing and homelessness assistance programs. We need to promote a welcoming attitude towards new residents in our community. We need to be a neighbor who says yes in my backyard, the YIMBY movement. We need to mobilize community and faith-based groups. We need to enlist local employers as housing champions and champions of the unhoused. We need to speak up for new housing at local meetings. A lot of times, the loudest voices are just a loud minority against the development of more housing that's desperately needed in our communities. We need to join a housing advocacy network. I think the COC, in many respects, qualifies. We need to host or attend housing forums and summits. We need to vote for pro-housing leadership. If we're very fortunate in that our legislative delegation is absolutely, without exception, a pro-housing legislative group. And I think across many of our Western Mass communities, we have that type of leadership. And if you don't have that kind of leadership in your community, you should look for that type of leadership. We need to get involved with local housing committees and boards. We need to support local housing funds and initiatives such as CPA, that's the Community Preservation Act, or Housing Trust, which are really important for the development of housing and funding the development of housing. We need to back public-private housing partnerships, and more generally, we need to support local housing authorities. We need to push for municipal housing plans, which are really important in terms of moving housing initiatives forward. We need to advocate for housing-friendly zoning. A lot of our zoning is intentionally, it makes it difficult and has intentionally made it much more challenging to build multi-dwelling units, which is a real challenge, and it drives up the cost of housing, which makes it much less likely that we can build that type of housing. We need to embrace diverse housing types. We need to mandate housing impact statements, similar to environmental impact statements. We need to, when new regulations are promulgated or implemented, we should really understand how they impact our ability to develop more housing. That's really important. We need to volunteer for and promote home repair and weatherization programs. We need to encourage reuse of vacant property, and some of the communities that have done a really good job with that are in Hampden County, Springfield, and under the leadership of former Judge Fine, there's been a real movement towards turning around some of those vacant properties. We need to maximize the use of existing homes. We need to support homelessness prevention and rehousing efforts, which are near and dear to me. We need to create housing opportunities on our own property, such as ADUs, and there's been some real movement in terms of making it more likely that and much more viable from a financial perspective to develop ADUs. We need to support the COC and the resources that promote supportive housing, which currently is under attack, and so we've really got to redouble our efforts relative to that. So those are my suggestions. I'm sorry I ran through them really quickly, but I know we have a pretty ambitious agenda. And I think I'm going to be moving on now to introducing our keynote speaker. And Shondell, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think that.
So we switched it up a little bit, but you're gonna introduce Lev Ben-Ezra, the new executive director.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. I don't have any background information other than I know that we are fortunate to have the executive of CAP be someone that really is deeply informed when it comes to housing issues and has worked in that area for some time before making this career transition. I don't know. I don't have that agenda in front of me, so I may defer to Shondell. Is this a speaking moment?
No, thank you. And thank you, Brad. Brad has always, he just molds himself to the moment. And thank you so very much, Brad. I apologize. I am going to move this on to Lev, because Lev is where we just really want everyone to see who Lev is and understand the impact that she has in her leadership with Community Action Pioneer Valley.
Thank you so much, Shondell, and thank you, Brad. I thank you so much to everybody who is on this call. I'm thrilled to be here with you. I am Lev Ben-Ezra, and I am the new Executive Director of Community Action Pioneer Valley, and really just so honored to be in this role and be here today with all of you, because I believe, as I know that all of you do, that access to housing and all of the resources and supports and connections that people need to survive and thrive is a basic human right. And because I also know that we have the resources within our community and with across our state and our country to provide these for our residents, if we choose to. And so I'm really grateful to be here with all of you. I want to just, I only will take a moment, but I want to just extend a really heartfelt thank you to all of the staff of the COC for their leadership as we have weathered this last year. I want to send an incredible thank you to the board of the COC and to all of the partner organizations and the partners who are doing work with our unhoused neighbors and our housing unstable neighbors to do this. So thank you very much for being here and for riding through this with us. I know particularly this transition of the new NOFO and all of the changes and it now being paused has been an incredible challenge that has real impact. So I just want to thank all of you for riding through this with us as we work towards this housing abundant future, whatever the twists and turns along the ways are. So thank you so much, and I will pass it back to Shondell.
Thank you so very much. And we're so happy to have you at the helm. Super grateful. All right. And with that, I am going to move to introduce our keynote speaker. So J.S. Levy, many of you recognize the name, recognize the face, the man, the legend. He has over 30 years of experience working with people experiencing homelessness and is the developer of the pre-treatment approach for individuals often deemed not ready for housing or services. He is the author of several influential books on homelessness and trauma-informed practices, including Pre-Treatment Guide for Homeless Outreach and Housing First and Pre-Treatment across multiple fields of practice, and helped to create Housing First programs such as REACH. And he is currently consults for Elliott CHS and Craig's Doors in Western Massachusetts and teaches outreach counseling at the graduate level. And with that, I'm going to move this over to our esteemed colleague and very dear friend, Jay Levy.
Oh, wow. Well, it's great to be back. And let me just give a big thanks to Shondell for the invite and the wonderful introduction. As a lot of you know and can hear and can see, I'm basically an old guy. I've been doing this work since the 1980s. It was a time before we had COCs and regional networks, and really before Housing First was a movement, was a recognized movement. Now, yet we were there forming our own helping networks, and outreach workers across America experimented with Housing First. You know, we just couldn't stand to see people out there with no alternatives. And we did it out of compassion. We moved forward with what works. And my main message to you today is that what we are doing has deep roots. And I know it will continue onward one way or another. Now, at the center of our work is our compassion and valuing person-centered relationships. So we go to the next slide. Next slide. Okay. So today, I'd like to re-embrace our mission and stay true to our sense of purpose of helping the most vulnerable amongst us. And for us to consider 4 basic questions. First, what are the costs of homelessness? As this, in many respects, drives our mission. Secondly, what are some of the lessons we've learned by reaching out to people without homes? Third, what is pre-treatment and its guiding principles of care? I really believe that these 5 principles will help us to be person-centered, goal-focused, and lead to meaningful, productive dialogue, those in need. And finally, why is reflective practice essential to our mission, and what we can learn from zooming in and zooming out? In other words, staying centered on our day-to-day work of helping others while appreciating the bigger picture. Next slide. Now, as all of you know, there is a high cost to homelessness, and certainly we pay a heavy price. First and foremost, there's the risk of death. There's been a number of studies on this. Dr. James O'Connell did a vulnerability study back in 1998, and it showed that people who fell into certain categories were at high risk of death if they were outside for 6 months or more sleeping rough. This included people who were over 60 years old, people who were trimorbid, in other words, having an addiction, a mental health issue, and a medical concern. People who had a history, they didn't have to have it now, but a history of frostbite, hypothermia, and trench foot were at high risk of death. And people who had more than 3 visits to emergency rooms or more than 3 hospitalizations within a year with high risk of death. And there was many other categories, such as being HIV positive or having liver disease or kidney disease and so on. They found that 40% of the people that fell into these categories died over a 5-year period of time. And the average age of death was 47 years old. Now, we also know there's a financial burden to homelessness. Just look at the criminalization of homelessness that's gone on over the years and the disproportionate use of people going to prison, people of color who end up in prison as a result. Look at all of the police calls and the ambulance calls and the high ER usage and inpatient stays. These are really, really exorbitant costs to the healthcare system. And we know that housing first with support service can bring down these costs. There's been many studies done by Dr. Sam Semberis, Dr. James O'Connell, and many others in the field. Thirdly, we need to look at quality of life issues. Again, first and foremost, for the people that are out there who experience long-term homelessness, their day-to-day struggle just to survive and the re-traumatization that they go through, but also the price that communities pay. You see, homelessness, it impacts all of us. And so our communities are dealing with folks who are living in our parks and in front of our doorways and, encampments and the buildup of, garbage and human waste, and in some cases, dealing with dirty needles or dirty needle disposal. Go to the next slide. So folks, look, this is a call to action. We know that outreach, housing first, improving access to healthcare, addressing affordability, access to housing, it's all an important part of the solution. Now, let me share with you a little bit of what I've learned over the years of doing a lot of outreach and housing first programming, primarily with Elliott Homeless Services, but also with a number of other programs. Michael Rose states, and he's a renowned author and research, he says that outreach takes place at a border that divides one world from another. So you see on one side of this boundary is the person in need. There's their house of language, which is composed of their culture, their strengths, their wants, their needs, their goals, their aspirations. But it's also composed of their challenges, their adaptations to harsh environments, their survival behaviors, their ideas and thoughts that are associated with mental illness and addiction and trauma, and in short, their stories. On the other side of the boundary is the world of resources and services. And this too has a house of language. It's composed of our mission, eligibility criteria, the type of training our staff gets, the type of data we collect, and how we measure success. All of this impacts the type of questions we ask, the intakes we do, the assessments that we complete. And if you think of where we might refer someone to, let's say to a mental health clinic, for example, well, the folks that we refer there are going to encounter words and concepts like mental illness and diagnosis and therapist and psychiatrist. They're going to be asked about their psych histories and suicidality and past hospitalizations. And yes, they're going to be expected to raise their hand and say, I have a mental illness or a mental health concern and I need help. So you might see what I'm trying to get at here, that there really is a cultural divide between the folks that we serve and the world of resources and services. I'm here to state that our job, our mission, is all about bringing these two disparate worlds together when we can do that. At the heart of what we do, we are interpreters and bridge builders. Next slide. Now, when I first began doing this work, I met folks who were living in very harsh conditions. I mean, it was really difficult for them. They had suffered significant trauma and loss, yet somehow they could still laugh, connect with others, adapt to these harsh conditions many times. And beyond survival, many of these folks were able to find a sense of purpose. In fact, Dr. Frankl declares, "We are meaning makers." Now, some of you may know Viktor Frankl's seminal work. It's a book that he wrote entitled Man's Search for Meaning. And Viktor Frankl knew a thing or two about trauma. You see, he survived the horrors of a concentration camp during World War II. And somehow he came out of that trauma with the gift of logos therapy. And logos therapy states that a sense of purpose can be an organizing force that promotes resiliency and stability. So keeping that in mind, the importance of a sense of meaning and how it can get us through difficult times, and the way trauma and homelessness is linked at the hip, I'm going to flash back just for a moment to the 1980s when Ronald Reagan was president. Homelessness was on the rise, and I was a young social worker, just graduating from Columbia University. I had my degree in clinical social work. I had my list of resources and services, and I went out to do my first rounds of outreach at the Port Authority. And it was there that I met someone who called himself Old Man Ray. To this day, I consider him to be my very first field supervisor. He was a World War II veteran and a fixture at New York City's Port Authority. When I first approached Ray, he surprised me with how much he was really used to the setting and the harsh environment that he was in, while I was really still transitioning to my role as an outreach worker. And when I went to offer him help, he immediately reversed the tables. And he said to me, "If you want to know what goes on around here, all you got to do is ask, how can I help you?" And then he declared that he was the night watchman, like an information center that knew all of the things that were going down at the Port Authority. Well, I remember this like it was yesterday. And Ray taught me a couple of important lessons on that day and going forward. Number one, we need to appreciate some of the cultural divides that we come across when we meet with people. In Ray's case, it was that he was a veteran and that he was an elder. In other people's cases, it could be race, it could be ethnicity. And we need to understand what it's like to be in their shoes, to be living and trying to adapt to these kinds of harsh environments and how they're getting by. In other words, to approach people with a sense of awe and wonder. That's very important in the work that we do. And to ask the questions, how are you getting along? What's working and what's not working for you? And to be a good listener rather than a teacher, to be a student, and to be able to say, wow, this person has a certain expertise to actually offer me, than to be so stuck and centered on our expertise. The time will come as we engage where we can introduce our expertise to the person. But let's begin by understanding where they're at. In narrative circles, we say people are experts on their own lives. And Dr. Frankl has a great quote. He says that despair is suffering without meaning. And if you think of Ray's situation, his purpose, his sense of meaning was being the night watchman. He was not in despair. So it's very important when we work with folks that we connect to their sense of meaning and we work with it, not against it, that we understand what people value and we work with that, not against it. We don't want to go against the tide. That's really going to hold us up and prevent us from getting into the kind of dialogue and goal making that we need to do to move the work forward. Next slide. So in answer to the central question of outreach, how do you help those who are clearly in need, yet communicate no need for help? This is why I introduced the 5 principles of pre-treatment. It's really simultaneous happenings. I'm going to go through them really quick right now. If the people are interested in more extensive trainings, I can do that down the road, but I'm just going to list them out. So first of all, everything begins with relationship formation. That's obviously the foundation of what we do. It's all about promoting trust, upholding safety, respecting autonomy. And as we go through these stages from pre-engagement to contracting, we want to get to that point where we're setting goals with the client that's going to help guide our work. But it's very important that these goals are done in a common language or really reflect the language of the client. The goals need to reflect the words, the ideas, and the values of the people that we're working with. And in developing a common language, we need to understand that the client is in charge. In other words, if we're saying something or doing something that's triggering that person, then we need to kind of relook at that. The client is in charge of the playground of language. We want to promote dialogue, not people shutting down, not people becoming argumentative, but productive dialogue toward working on our goals and pushing the work forward. Thirdly, we want to be able to promote transition, which is the 3rd principle of pre-treatment, promoting transition to all sorts of things, relationships, ideas, services, resources, treatment, housing. Transitions are happening all around us. And I say to my staff, it's important that we catch the transition bus. If we tune in, it could be even a transition to the weather. If we're right there, we offer a pair of gloves and it's a cold day and the person is saying their hands are cold, well, that's going to be a good connection with them. That's going to fortify our engagement and help to move the work forward. Next slide. The 4th principle of pre-treatment is promoting safety, and we connect this into 2 different ways. One is crisis intervention, and our stance with crisis is we're very active and more directive, and we want to make sure people are obviously safe. And crisis is an opportunity to connect people directly to the services and resources that they need. Their ways of coping might be hitting a wall, and it's our chance, if we have that good relationship on the ground and a good common language, to then make some suggestions and direct people to the type of services and resources and treatment that can be really helpful. On the other hand, we do a lot of harm reduction with people. Now, harm reduction is different. It begins by embracing where the person is at and making an offer to promote adaptation and safety. It can be something as simple as someone living out in the woods and giving them some camping gear to help them to be warmer at night and less at risk. But at the same time of doing that, we're also having discussions about housing options. In other words, we're beginning to melt that pre-contemplative iceberg to help people to contemplate more about their options and what type of goals they want to work on. This is all part of facilitating and supporting positive change, which is the 5th principle. And we do this very broadly. It can be around housing, it could be around addiction, it could be around mental illness, it could be around medical issues. It's all about where the person's at and where we can help to facilitate that deeper kind of contemplation to help people get to an action phase of the work. Last slide. Now, it's one thing to attend a training, and it's another to establish ongoing reflective practice. And what we want to do is we really want to foster an environment of inquiry, reflection, and learning. And this means it's very important to create the time and space for reflective practice in our programs. And we can do this both on an individual level through doing supervision, or what I like to call co-vision. We could do it in terms of group supervision, but we could also encourage our staff to partner up and debrief as they're doing the work through their days. I think another important aspect of reflective practice is zooming in and understanding what type of questions to ask. We want to be regularly asking what's working, what's not working, and is there anything new we can be trying to help push the work forward? And if you were to match this with the principles of pre-treatment, I think you can see how you could have an effective reflective practice, such as where are we at with engagement and relationship building? What's working? What's not working? What can we try that is different to help promote engagement? We can do the same thing with common language. What's working with common language? What types of words and ideas is the person responding to? What type of words and ideas is shutting the person down? Might be triggering. Do less of what's triggering, do more of where the person is leaning in. That's all promoting the reflective practice. Is there certain values that we don't know about, or are the goals that we're working on within the frame of the client language? How can we appeal to that by appealing to their goals, their ideas, and their specific words and what they value? Same thing in regard to supporting transitions. What's working, what's not working, what's worked in the past, and is there anything we can try that's different? And we can ask people directly those questions. That's a solution-focused approach, and learn from them what works for them and what doesn't work for them. At the same time, it's important that we're able to zoom out when we're doing our work. So we want to renew our commitment in a mindful way of our day-to-day work, and then zoom out and address bigger picture issues through advocacy by appealing to our representatives for change. The legal challenges that are going on right now through the courts to support our Housing First agenda. Activism as it's needed and required. Being inspired by historical and current day heroes, including each other, because to me, you're all heroes in doing the work the way you do it. And personally, I want to say, I look to the civil rights movement for inspiration. I look to the great work that's being done by Doctors Without Borders in the Middle East. I look to the work of people like Dr. Jim Withers and the International Street Medicine Movement, which is bringing care directly to people in need. And with all of that said, I just want to end with a very quick reading from the book Cross-Cultural Dialogues on Homelessness. I can still hear the echoes from a distant place. It was a time when people did not believe in the possibility of directly housing long-term homeless individuals without first requiring treatment. There was the din of the naysayers and doubters who thought it could not or must not be done. Yet here we are in the midst of a movement. Over the past several years, we have unveiled the promise of finding homes for the most vulnerable among us who live on our streets and on the edges of our communities. Through the hard work of outreach, Housing First, and the transatlantic truth of trauma-informed care, we have begun to make that promise a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just one moment in case anyone has any questions or anything that you'd like to ask Jay or say to Jay. Please feel free to come off mute if you have any questions. See, no questions. Thank you, Jay. As always,
Sure.
We're always happy to have you here. And again, we appreciate you so much.
Well, it's good to see so many familiar faces and so many folks that are continuing the struggle and pushing forward with things. So, you know, I look up to that. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, so we're going to continue. Let me just make sure that I have the right screen because, you know, the screens bite me. There we go. All right. So now we're going to go into the year in review. This is going to be presented by 3 County COC staff and committee members. First and foremost, I just want to talk about the personnel changes. We had one specific change in personnel over the last year. Many of you know Emma Coles. Emma Coles was the COC's administrative assistant, and she is now our DV Emerge coordinator. So please take a moment in the chat and welcome again to Emma Coles in this new position. And we hope that, you know, she moves forward and does a lot of change and really addresses and our systemic change to make our relationship with the VSPs and survivors of domestic violence stronger, and as well as making change within the way we interact with encampments and sharing resources for them as well. And now I'm going to hand this off to Michelle LaFleur, our data and evaluation manager, and Natalie Bertsos, our compliance manager.
Thank you, Shonda. You can actually move it on to the next slide. Thank you. So to start, we're looking at the point in time count. And just to give everyone a sense of what that is, the point in time count is our attempt to try and determine how many people are experiencing homelessness across the 3-county COC on a single night. We've conducted this count in January for many years, and recently have been conducting the count in the summer as well. So what we're looking at right here is an overview of the 2021 to 2025 January point in time counts conducted in the last 10 days of January each winter, broken down by individuals and people and families, again from 2021 to 2025. We can see again there has been an overall increase over time since 2021. Although we did see a reduction in the number of families experiencing homelessness between 2024 and 2025, although the number of individuals experiencing homelessness has continued to increase between 2024 and 2025 as well. Thanks. Next slide, Shondell.
And on this slide, we have some data specifically focused on the unsheltered part of the point in time count, which, as most of you know, relies on surveys in order to collect the data carried out by members of the community and volunteers. And so what this shows from 2024 to 2025 is an increase in people who are unsheltered on the designated night in January 2025, going from 86 people in January 2024 to 107 in January 2025. This change may reflect both an increase in people experiencing unsheltered homelessness, but it may also reflect increased participation by community providers in the point in time count. So we had a more accurate count than we did in the prior years. Next slide, please.
And here we're looking at, again, the January winter point in time count broken down by county. So this was in January 2025. There were 308 people experiencing homelessness in Berkshire County, 157 people experiencing homelessness in Franklin County, 402 people experiencing homelessness in Hampshire County, and a total of 867 people experiencing homelessness across the total 3-county COC. We have the breakdown here in the chart, the number of individuals who are unsheltered in each county versus sheltered individuals and sheltered families in each county as well. Next slide, Swindon.
And here we have very similar looking slide, but this is actually reflecting our summer 2025 point in time count that we carried out in July. And so in comparison to what we found and surveyed in January, we definitely have a higher unsheltered count, which was 143 compared to that 107 across all 3 counties. And it is also notable that the shelter count is lower in the summertime, especially though for families experiencing homelessness, and a slight reduction in sheltered individuals in the summertime. Next slide.
Okay. So another report that the Continuum of Care is responsible for conducting every year is something called a GAPS analysis. Our GAPS analysis is our attempt to try and determine what resources our community has and what's missing from the homelessness response system. So we look at point in time count data, housing inventory chart data, which kind of goes along with the point in time count and looks at how many beds exist of emergency shelter, permanent supportive housing, that kind in each county. We developed a survey asking the community providers and people with lived experience of homelessness what they saw as the highest needs and biggest gaps in each county. And finally, we held focus groups with people with lived experience of homelessness, asking what resources might help them and someone else in their area to obtain and maintain stable housing. So the results of the GAPS analysis are are used to put out a report to the community to try and kind of guide resource directives as new funding opportunities come up, particularly for the continuum of care NOFO funding opportunity. Right now, we are also working on a draft of a bigger report that'll go out. It's kind of on hold as the NOFO process is underway. But these priorities are also kind of directing the priorities that go out for the COC's application process. Next slide, Shonda. Thank you. So here is also kind of what those recommendations are based on the committee. So this is the COC's Data Evaluation Committee, leads this gaps analysis process and worked with the wider COC membership to come up with these recommendations. They are rapid rehousing anywhere, either for a general population or specific subpopulations, permanent supportive housing in Hampshire County in particular, street outreach in Franklin County in particular, homelessness prevention anywhere. I think homelessness prevention actually was seen as the #1 priority across the board, is pretty much housing and services for families experiencing homelessness, and bridge programs for persons who are being discharged from an institutional setting who don't have an exit plan for housing when they leave. Yeah, and next slide. So this is just one example of some of the data that we looked at from our gaps analysis survey. We were asking people to rank these resources by priority for their county, and this is how we kind of reviewed that weighted ranking. We looked at overall, we looked at people with experience of homelessness, people without experience of homelessness, provider staff, to see where those different priorities were different across different groups of people. So you can see homelessness prevention was very, very high up for pretty much everyone who responded. We also saw, of course, interim housing or emergency shelter as a high priority, permanent housing with supportive services, and housing search and navigation. All right, next slide.
Thank you so much. And as you saw, Michelle, I'm so happy you used the word interim housing. Yay. Okay. So the NOFO, right? Just gonna give you a timeline because usually we give a timeline and an update about what happened, but you know, that it's a little different this year. So HUD released the FY25 NOFO on November 13th, 2025. The 3 county COC then responded in our responsibilities and released a request for proposals on December 1st. That deadline for those proposals was due on December 12th. And the HUD recorded at the moment that this notice went out, deadline for submissions was January 14th. On December 8th, HUD rescinded the NOFO an hour and a half before they were set to have proceedings in federal court in Rhode Island. Tomorrow is a continuation of those proceedings in the court in Rhode Island on this lawsuit that was brought forward by 20 attorney generals, as well as the National Alliance to End Homelessness and other smaller organizations and COCs. You can watch this live stream tomorrow. I'm starting at 10 o'clock on YouTube. If one of my staff could throw the link in the chat. If not, I will do that later on. But I just want to say that we have paused everything that is NOFO related at this moment in time. We continue to encourage our COC funded projects and anyone that is planning on applying for COC funding to continue moving forward with your planning, try to identify the best changes as possible. It's a bumpy road, but we will get through this together. And with that, I'm going to pass this over to Vega Johnson Bouchard, our coordinated entry specialist. Vega.
Thank you, Shondell. So we've had a few different community partnerships throughout this year, as always. That includes our coordinated entry assessors that have been completing assessments, includes those that we've partnered with to provide trainings for our continuum, and those that have joined our committees. And I have some specific numbers on the next slide. We've had over the last year over 80 new coordinated entry assessors trained from different organizations, which is really exciting. It's been great working with everyone that is new to the coordinated entry system. We've had 8 new person with lived experiences members of our action board that have been involved, and we've had overall 16 new committee members, which has been very exciting. We've also had this year 26 different trainings, including those that we've had with partners, which have included going over the DV 201. We've had targeted universalism. We've had trainings on trauma-informed care and housing services overall. We're very grateful for all those partnerships. The COC staff has also covered the coordinated entry system, rent reasonableness, and DV coordinated entry referral form done by Emma, which has been great. We also have, if anyone would like to view any of the trainings that we've done this year, I will share in the chat the link for you all to view our catalog of trainings that have been recorded. Thank you, Shunda. I'll pass to Emma.
Emma, you got this, or you want me to do this?
I believe you're doing the first 2
Okay.
focus groups.
So we held a number of focus groups over the last year, and we're just going to give you some information on that. So first of all, back in February, we partnered with Destination Home, which is an agency out in Santa Clara County, California. And they hosted 9 members of the PLE Action Board who met with Claudine Sipley. She is the director of lived experience at that organization. This interview and feedback session focused on understanding the barriers, challenges, and opportunities related to lived experience, leadership within the 3-county COC. Participants included individuals currently experiencing homeless and frontline staff with lived experience. The conversation highlighted trauma exposure, lack of training and support, fear of retaliation, and funding instability as core challenges. Some of the key takeaways were trauma-informed practice must be foundational and mandatory across systems. Lived experience leadership without power, protection, and compensation is unsafe and extractive. Mentorship, digital literacy, and clarity of roles are critical gaps. Sustainable funding is essential to prevent the collapse of lived experience leadership groups. And trusted, consistent facilitation makes a meaningful difference in participant engagement and safety. As a result of this group of folks that provided Claudine with responses to her questions and helped her out, Destination Home provided us with a mini grant of $24,000 that over the last year has not only supported the increase of the stipend amount that we were able to give PLE who were at decision-making tables and helping in the community, but it also helped us do so much more, including supporting the funding of the point-in-time count items and resources that we need, having community spaces where we were able to share meals in person with each other, and so much more. So, and I just want to, again, in case Claudine and Destination Homes see this recording, thank you so much for your contribution to our community. We appreciate you very, very much. On the next slide, I'm a consultant with the National Coalition for the Homeless on the Reimagining Interim Housing Project. Over the last 4 years, we've been putting out some really good standards. In the last year, we held some focus groups with 40 participants from 15 states that currently live in interim housing programs. The programs models that we had people attend were from congregate programs with people sleeping in large shared spaces, non-congregate programs with people staying in private rooms or sharing rooms with a small number of people, tiny home programs with people staying in small private or shared structures, and other program models people may experienced. Some of the questions that were asked were, do you have a recent experience with staying in an emergency shelter or interim housing program that had recently opened or revamped? What was different about the program than other shelter or interim housing programs you have stayed in or that you have heard about? Some communities are now offering non-congregate programs in which people have private rooms or share rooms with a small number of other people. If you have stayed in any such non-congregate programs, what worked well about those programs and settings? What did not work well? And what helped you feel comfortable or safe? What made it harder to feel at ease or move forward? From all of the focus groups that we held, the key findings were privacy is crucial. Participants consistently emphasized the importance of having private or semi-private spaces. Dignity and respect matter. Participants want to be treated as individuals, not just numbers, with staff who understand trauma. Supportive services are essential. They make effective programs and should offer case management, mental health resources, job training, help obtaining housing and documents, and clear communication. And then I'll pass this on to Emma.
Thank you, Shondell. So this October, the COC, with the help of 2 local consultants, one of whom is here, and we're very grateful for all he's done, facilitated 2 focus groups for survivors of domestic violence who had interacted with the homelessness response system in Western Massachusetts. And all of the information we got from these focus groups is worth sharing, but for the sake of time, here are just 4 data points. So 10 was the number of focus group participants. 33 months was the average length of time in housing search, and that is just under 3 years. 8 participants experienced barriers in their search because of their age, sexuality, nationality, primary language, or family needs, and 3 of the participants are still currently unhoused. Next slide, please, Shonda. Now we are going to talk about some highlights from our many committees and work groups. Next slide. So our DV Expansion Committee collaborates with local providers and advocates to ensure that the homeless response system best serves the survivor community and reviews and provides training for shelters and housing providers. This committee has done really great things this year, but 3 key highlights are they helped inform the content for our DV 201 training, which was facilitated by the 2 consultants who did the focus groups. And as Vega mentioned, it's on our Talent LMS. This committee helped develop a crisis tool to be used during the coordinated assessment process, and they've also provided really great insight into improving our coordinated entry process overall. Next slide. Our Community Success Committee was instrumental in planning our June community gathering at Greenfield Community College. They came up with the idea to hold space for small group discussions so that attendees could have conversations and make connections. And they came up with the discussion questions for these as well. And we got a lot of really great feedback on this and definitely will be repeating it at our next in-person gathering. This committee also helped in revising and releasing our annual climate survey. We send this out to our contact lists across the 3 counties, and the results let us know how respondents are feeling about their work and what trainings people are looking for. Of the 26 trainings we held this year, 7 were because of responses we have heard in previous surveys. So the climate survey is really, really important to our programming and the trainings that we provide. And speaking of trainings, we had a really great one on targeted universalism. For those of you who were here last year, this was previewed in our last annual meeting, and it is an approach to social issues that consists of designing targeted strategies to ensure that all groups can reach a universally agreed upon goal, targeted universalism. And we plan to create a group in the new year to begin implementing these strategies in our community. Next slide, please. Our Reimagining Interim Housing Work Group is continuing to finalize its action plan, and we are looking for more shelter providers to join the conversation and offer their expertise and insights in this process. So any shelter providers here who want to get involved, please reach out. Shondell and I also presented at the Fair Housing Conference at Western New England University in May, giving an update on the work being done in our COC and on the national level. And on the national level, the group was updating standards for the 2026 release of the framework, and these standards are focused on upholding people's well-being, choices, and fair treatment, creating safe, healthy, and supportive environments, developing a skilled and effective staff team, and connecting people to housing and stability. Next slide.
And with that, I'm going to pass this off to one of our members of our PLE Action Board, Jessica Torres. Jessica?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Torres. Give me 1 second. I had everything written down and it disappeared. I am a part of the COC committee board and a couple of more, the committee success committee, DV expansion, and the Reimagining Interim Housing Work Group. And through these roles, I help guide system living change with compassion, insight, and determination. And despite the challenge that I have faced, I continue to channel my strength into helping others. So with the 3 county persons with lived experience, Action Board exists to ensure that the voices of people most impacted by homelessness are presented and valued at decision-making tables. The board walks to identify barriers within the system, elevate what is not working, and enforce meaningful system-level change, recognizing that no 2 experiences of homelessness are the same. The PLE Action Board centers collective leadership and shared responsibility, showing up as a collaborative us to strengthen the homelessness response system. Through advocacy, partnership, and accountability, the board advances access to vital resources for the unhoused neighbors while challenging stigma and pushing for lasting change for those who continue to experience homelessness. Next slide. In response to the extreme heat and unsafe conditions, the 3-county PLE Action Board led a cooling kit collection and distribution effort to support our unhoused neighbors who were exposed to the elements. Guided by lived experience and on-the-ground knowledge, the board coordinated the assembly and distribution of essential items at trusted community locations, including the Amherst Survivor Center, First Church's Community Breakfast in Northampton, and the St. James and Andrew Community Dinner in Greenfield. In partnership with Wildflower Alliance and CHD Outreach, we are deeply grateful to the community members and Greenfield Northampton Cooperative Bank, whose generosity made it possible to provide these life-sustainable supplies. Your support directly contributed to the safety and dignity of our unhoused neighbors during extreme weather conditions. We also extend our sincere appreciation to the COC staff for their ongoing support in helping the PLE Action Board. It turned vision into action and to community action for amplifying this effort through multiple media outlets. This collective work reflects the power of lived experience, collaboration, and community care in meeting immediate needs while continuing to advocate for long-term systemic change.
Now we're going to pass this on to Jason Zamboni, who is also a PLE Action Board member and a CRC Board of Directors.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. So this is the Lived Experience Training Academy that is available to anybody who has lived experience of homelessness. And the Lived Experience Training Academy is a virtual and inclusive professional development program initiated by the National Coalition for the Homeless. It is created by the people who have experienced homelessness and designed to be so incredibly accessible. The program offers 12 to 16 hours of professional development that will have you certified. And and genuinely so much more. I did not realize how much I was going to get out of this. But LEDA is a vehicle to help the growing, silenced, unhoused population seeking justice, equality, and freedom. It equips you with the tools and resources you need to make your voice the centerpiece of strategy and advocacy. In the last 2 years, 6 members of the PLE Action Board, including myself, have attended and completed the LEDA course, and 2 more members are in the process of getting signed up to do the same. I will say from my own experience, this course kind of blew me away. I knew it was going to be a comprehensive course, and I, a year ago, was someone who had not been in any type of schooling for like 5 years. And this course was not hard for me. And I am someone who struggles in school. So to have it be so accessible, to have it be fully online, and to be self-paced was so valuable to me. I would say that it gave me a sense of confidence and a broadening of my world. I've always thought of working with youth, but now with extra layers in my life of experience, I'm like, I can work with youth and I can work with organizations and service providers. And like, I would love to be a consultant in different focus groups. And none of that was even like a part of my worldview before I knew that LEDA existed. So I am so grateful for this program, for this training academy, and am always excited to hear when more people want participate in it. And am I passing to someone? No, I'm not passing. Am I? I'm not passing. Okay, cool. So this is something that's been going on with the PLE Action Board was the National Lived Experience Leadership Conference that happened just about a month ago now. On November 17th to the 19th, the National Coalition for the Homeless hosted the Lived Experience Leadership Conference in Cincinnati, Ohio, with a core mission to organize, advocate, and empower. People from across the country came together carrying the weight of lived realities, stories of survival, resistance, and hope. The conference featured transformational workshops where participants co-created strategies for justice and systemic change, and evenings of connection were capped with a gala dinner that celebrated leadership, courage, and the power of community. Voices that are often ignored, the guiding conversation about housing, justice, and human dignity. Participants shared their journeys, connected over shared challenges, and celebrated victories both small and monumental. I personally had the opportunity to go to this conference through a scholarship, thanks to the National Coalition for the Homeless. And my main takeaway from the several workshops that I went to was that the relationships that we have in this life are literally everything. And to feel your importance in the grand scheme of all of that is so important to our work, but so important to how you show up in the world, where you show up, when you show up. And that directly connects to sustainability of this work. If you're like, oh, well, maybe I'll just take the day off, which would be totally warranted. And also, you showing up changes the you show up in. Your perspective, your insights are very valuable, and they are needed in the room. And yeah, that was my main takeaway. And I will pass it off to Jessica.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Jason. This was more than a conference. It was a gathering of courage, a testament to what can happen when those most impacted by inequity lead the fight for solution. By the final day, bonds had been forged, strategies had been sharpened, and a movement had been strengthened. Attendees left with renewed purpose, carrying the energy and lessons of Cincinnati into their communities, ready to continue organizing, advocating, and empowering others to demand the world that they deserve. I personally attended virtually, and my takeaway to this conference was truly inspiring. I did have the opportunity in our table meetings to meet amazing people. And what makes it amazing is the same mission, statement, and goal that I have, which is trying to end homelessness. We're all in the same story, and to hear these speakers walk and talk for us, not only representing those who were in homelessness, but telling their stories is amazing, because it's not the same you representing homelessness, but living it is a total different vibe. I hope that next year I could be able to go personally. But it is amazing. It was a great experience. And if you haven't had the chance virtually, I think it's a great stepping forward to freshen yourself up and maybe try to get that scholarship to go personally. Next slide. So I want to go ahead and join, I want to invite everyone to join the 3-county COC and the PLE Action Board, the community members for the annual Candlelight Vigil Homelessness Memorial. This gathering is an opportunity to come together in remembrance of those who have died while experiencing homelessness, to honor their lives and to hold space for reflection and solidarity. The vigil will take place on Sunday, December 21st from 2 to 3:30 p.m. at First Church of Northampton. Everyone is welcome to join us as we remember, reflect, and reaffirm our collective commitment to ending homelessness. Now I pass it to Shonda.
Thank you so very much, both of you. I appreciate you. And now I'm going to hand this off to Vega.
Thank you all so much. Just one note about the vigil. If you have anyone that you would like to be honored, but you're unable to attend, I'm going to put my email in the chat. You're welcome to email me anyone's names. But the Coordinated Entry Committee, it serves as a space for evaluating the 3-county COC's coordinated entry system, which includes evaluating the effectiveness of our coordinated entry assessment tool, how case conferencing meetings are conducted, and just overall system performance. The committee also serves as a space for feedback for any newly proposed tools or processes to better our coordinated entry system. And our focus this year has been to prepare to have our coordinated entry system be evaluated by our technical assistance providers that we've had assigned. From HUD, later in this meeting, they're going to share more about what that process will look like and what you all can do to be involved in that process. Preparing for the evaluation this year, though, has included having some in-depth conversations around sticking points in our system that have come up for the case managers and the project staff that have been attending the committee meetings. And while we are getting feedback to share with our TA providers for evaluating our system in the coming months, it's incredibly important to hear from you all. If you all have thoughts, we'd love to have you join the conversation, especially those that are people with lived experience, those that are conducting assessments and attending case conferencing meetings. And it would be great for you all to be connected with our TA providers. I can pass it.
Something that hasn't been held, but we are anticipating starting up in the new year is the landlord engagement work group. The last time that this work group was held was, I believe, towards the end of 2022, which had at that time completed a qualitative surveys with a variety of landlords in our service area. This work group will be open to any members of the community that are interested in joining. And we are especially interested in project staff that assist in housing search and landlords joining. We hope to cover topics including housing search, landlord engagement, housing problem solving, and potentially moving on strategies. More announcements will be made in upcoming COC-sponsored webinars in January or February, and please be on the lookout for emails to our mailing list for the opportunity to join us. Thank you. Next slide.
So the COC's Ranking and Evaluation Committee is a very important part of the annual application process for continuum of care funding. This committee assists the COC in preparing for that application, reviewing applications that come in to the COC from subrecipient agencies, reviews the COC's funding priorities, all the different evaluation ranking criteria for that process. This committee meets as needed, and I'm really appreciative that this year they've been very flexible and adaptive, as the NOFO process has been a lot more uncertain this year than it is in most years. Currently, we're still scheduled to meet on December 22nd, but everyone in this committee, please keep your eye on your email in case there are changes to the NOFO that we see in the coming days before Monday. Yep, I think that's it. And I think I'm passing it over to Beatrice and Daniel from the Youth Action Board.
Hi everyone, my name is Beatrice and I'm one of the members here representing the Youth Action Board. So if you could just go to the next slide, please, and I'll give kind of an overview of what we do. Okay. The YAB is a group of youth and young adult activists that are focused on fighting for youth and young adult homelessness in Franklin and the Hampshire counties. We also support our peers and build community. We connect our peers with local resources. We increase YYA opportunities to engage in legislative advocacy. We highlight and uplift the voices of homeless youth and young adults to facilitate change. And lastly, we challenge adultism or prejudice against youth and young adults within the resources and systems that support youth and young adults.
Hello, I'm Daniel. I'm from the Youth Action Board, and I'll be talking about the work we do. So every week we hold weekly paid meetings in person twice a month. The meetings include a book club, circle discussions, cooking, working on youth-led projects such as creating a research closet or planting a garden. We lead YYA committee meetings with providers to build relationships and address possible issues facing YYA within our communities. We participate in COC activities like the point in time count planning and PLE Action Board. We volunteer with local organizations and build relationships with local resource providers such as Stone Soup Cafe.
Thank you both very much for being here to represent the YAB. I just have to say that I am I've identified myself as the biggest YAB advocate, around, but I know that we all support the youth and young adults in the YAB and help them to continue uplifting their voices and completing their goals and moving towards systemic change for other youth and young adults that come after them. So thank you very much to the YAB. Next, we're going to go into updates, and I'm going to pass this on to Emma.
Thank you, Shondell. So the goal of our Emerge Coalition, which is the second half of my job title, is to ensure coordinated, effective, and humane responses to unsheltered homelessness. Unfortunately, as we know, unsheltered homelessness is increasing across our COC and across the entire country. And we want to make sure that all the relevant parties like providers, municipalities, law enforcement, unsheltered individuals are aware of existing resources as well as scheduled cleanups when necessary, so that no efforts are being duplicated and everyone is being properly served. In the new year, we look forward to continuing to build relationships and improve coordination across the community. Next slide.
Now we're going to pass it off to Wendy Warger, our business manager, for some fiscal updates. Wendy.
Thank you, Shondell. I want to welcome everyone. I know that Shondell already spoke a little bit about the 2025 NOFO, so I wanted to focus on what challenges we faced this last fiscal year, which would be our HUD NOFO for FY24. So the challenges we faced head on were, are we actually going to get funded in FY24? We've already faced that one challenge. How are we going to expend all our funding? Should we extend an FY24 project? An extension needs to be done before December 31st, 2025. How do we manage the shift in priorities and help our participants at the same time? HUD amendments were put on hold. Amendments need to be processed within 15 days prior to the end of the grant. Do we have all the match we need, and are we utilizing them efficiently? Are we expensing correctly? Next slide. Our successes. We received our funding for FY24, which started in April. So that was a success. We had MHA projects that transitioned to replacement projects to mock and youth workforce and development that allowed some transitioning funding for new projects. That was the first time that we've actually used transition funding to help new projects come on board. Yes, we had some challenges to that, but we also made it through that. We received and utilized destination home funding for match to contribute stipends and outreach supplies for our PLE. Huge success. That money was definitely needed. Also, we're now using Big Focus, which is our HMS contract, and that's being used as another reoccurring match. So that helps take some of the stress off our match. The other thing is we utilized our ability to pull back funding from projects that could not utilize all their funding. And we utilized this in our YHDP projects. And this is the first year our YHDP projects expended 90% of their funding. And I want to thank you, MOC and Youth Workforce Development. Also, having had some of the challenges, we read a lot, we analyzed a lot, we talked a lot, and we were ahead of the curve for the continuum of cares discussing about how to handle our new priorities. We strategized long before others about what potentially could happen and how would we present these strategies. We extended projects that wanted to be extended to our, to cover expenses and better align with HUD distributions. Some of these extensions are still waiting approval, but as of 12/12, HUD started processing amendments again, so it was a big yahoo success. We successfully moved the COC office to a new location and did this when the 2025 NOFO dropped. We also remained and continued to remain focused on what our end result is, which is getting people housed. Next slide, please. I wanted to give people also an idea of what we process for HUD. So these are just focused on HUD. We also have other expenses and other funding sources and whatnot. But we currently processed 14 subrecipient contracts, 6 which are COC contracts, which gives us a total of 20 contracts. We did 21 amendments, 5 time extensions, 2 reallocations to new projects, which had never been done before, 1 reallocation to an existing project from another existing project within the same grant. We did 168 reimbursement invoices for subrecipients. This doesn't include all the other invoicing, obviously, that we did. And The 6 FY23 YHDP projects are closed, except for one that will close 12/31/2025. So with all the challenges, we still continue to do what we do, get people housed. Next slide.
Thank you so very much, Wendy. We appreciate all the work that you do for us and all the time that you spend in front of the computer typing away. I think I need to get you a neck massager. I don't know how you do it. But with that, I'm going to pass this off on for coordinated entry updates to Vega and Emma Coles.
Thank you, Shondell. Yeah, that slide's great. Thank you so much. So a couple updates of what folks have been housed this year. So we've had 24 participants that have been housed in our permanent supportive housing projects. We've had 26 be housed in our transitional housing projects and 18 be housed with rapid rehousing, including our partnerships and our COC projects. We've had a new project open this year, which has been really exciting, a long time in the making. We've had Lewison House open their Bracewell Youth Permanent Supportive Housing Project and successfully house 6 youth into their housing, which is very exciting. There was a ribbon cutting ceremony, which was great for us all to attend. The last update is that we had a project transfer this year. What was previously MHA's youth permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing has been transferred to Making Opportunity Count and Community Actions youth and workforce development programs. That has been an exciting transition. And we're so grateful for those projects to be taking over. And next slide, please. We also this year have been working on a couple different partnerships that have led to a lot of different people being housed, which is really great. We've had a partnership with Hearthway. We finally, at the end of this year, the participants will be housed. But there are 2 different projects that we've been identifying referrals through the coordinated entry process for. There has been referrals for the First Street Apartments and the West Housatonic Street Apartments in Pittsfield. Total of 9 for the first project and 22 more participants that will be housed at the West Housatonic Street Apartments at the end of this month and into the beginning of 2026. We've also been having a partnership that has been ongoing this year with CSO for their rapid rehousing assistance that assists with move-in costs or costs for obtaining vital documents to be able to be housed. A lot of people have been able to utilize that assistance. And then looking forward, we will be having all referrals go through the coordinated entry system for CSO's upcoming permanent supportive housing project, which will be housing 36 individuals. Beginning in February, we will begin identifying those referrals, and the projected move-in date will be June 18th. And I can pass to Emma.
So on the DV coordinated entry side, this year Salison began their COC-funded rapid rehousing program. The referrals began in August, so about 4.5 months ago. 7 referrals have been made, and as of today, 4 are housed. And there is an asterisk next to that 4 because one of them is moving in tomorrow. This is really exciting, and I want to give a special shout out to IMA because she is working so hard to find people housing, and we are just really, really, really grateful for all she's doing, as well as all the other providers and the landlords who are working to rapidly rehouse individuals. A short update on our DV moving to work housing vouchers. Our COC was originally awarded these in 2023. We were awarded 23 vouchers. We made 23 referrals, and 22 people were able to get housed, including 5 this year. And those are done. We're not going to get any more, but we're really happy that we got 22 people housed with them. Finally, I held a DV coordinated entry training in November, and that is recorded and on our Talent LMS along with all of our other trainings that we've been talking about today. Next slide, Shondell.
And now we're going to move this on to talk about future plans. And with this, we are going to introduce our two tech consultants that are working on our full membership. I hope they're in the room. That's Masita Dorley and Natalie Goodman. Are you both here? I see Natalie. And oh, there's Masita. Okay.
We're here.
All right. I'm going to hand this off to y'all.
Lovely. Thanks, Shondell, and thanks everyone for allowing us to be in your space with you today. We know you have a really packed agenda. We can go to the next slide. So you all have a big agenda. There's lots going on in the COC program, as you all know. So we are going to keep our piece a little bit shorter, just to offer you all a glimpse of the coordinated entry evaluation technical assistance we'll be offering, but you can expect to hear more from Masita and I in the near future. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So, Masita and I work for the Technical Assistance Collaborative, or TAC, which is a nonprofit organization that supports human services, healthcare, homelessness, and affordable housing systems, implement policies and practices. Our office is based in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm actually based in the Cambridge area, but we also have staff across the country. Our very own Masita is based in North Carolina, and we work with communities across the country, and we're really excited to be working with you all. So between Masita and I, we will be delivering your COC's coordinated entry evaluation TA. And we, again, are very, very excited to be with you today, but to be working with you in the coming months. So just to quickly orient all of us, we want to provide brief context around the technical assistance request. So COCs can submit requests to HUD for support on specific COC priorities, and your COC requested assistance with a coordinated entry evaluation. So HUD assigned this request to TAC, which is why Masita and I are here with you today. The purpose of the technical assistance is to support your community in assessing and strengthening your coordinated entry system. And in the coming months, we'll work with your community to review the system for alignment with federal regulations and guidance, as well as identifying opportunities for improvement. And we'll engage with community members in a range of different technical assistance or TA activities to support this effort. Okay, so a little bit about the purpose and the values around why we do coordinated entry evaluations. So the purpose of the coordinated entry evaluation is really to support HUD's continuous improvement requirements, to also identify where there may be log jams in the coordinated entry design or flow, and to inform any ongoing iterative work that is part of improving the system. Ultimately, the work is about improving the consumer experience. Those are the folks that are, interfacing with the homeless response system in your community, and doing so across the full COC's geography, while ensuring that coordinated entry is aligned with your COC's goal of resolving homelessness as quickly and effectively as possible. So there are a few guiding values that help shape this process that we wanted to uplift and keep top of mind with you all. As part of the process, we will be meeting with many community members, likely many of you, and we want to immediately encourage candid feedback and input along the way. You all are the experts on what works and what doesn't in the community, and you also know firsthand, or your team members know firsthand, where there might be opportunities for innovation and growth. So TAC will gather community members' input. We'll synthesize it in the aggregate, and that means that folks won't be called out or identified for sharing their feedback. We want folks to feel really comfortable in sharing your honest experience with the system. Additionally, this process is solutions based and community oriented. So what that means in our world is we are going to ask you for ideas that will address local bottlenecks or pain points. We will welcome creativity along the way, and we really want this process to build on your community's expertise and to help the system grow. It's never the intention to critique any existing efforts, only to build up what you all already have, which is a really strong system. And I'm going to pass it to Masita to carry us forward.
Thank you so much, Natalie, and thank you all for allowing us and welcoming us in your space. I just want to say before starting that I'm just floored with all of the wonderful work that was just shared here. And Jay, your reflection was really uplifting. I love the zoom in, zoom out piece that was shared because what with the coordinated entry evaluation, this is the zoom out process and evaluating the already wonderful work that your community is doing as the experts that are around the table and in community. So just really appreciate all of the resiliency and all of the efforts that have been gone forth and the coordination with Shondell and Vega in allowing us to, introduce ourselves today. Next slide. So coordinated entry, as Natalie said, we're just going to conduct this evaluation just to build off on all of the great work that has been gone forth and the evaluation that took place in 2023, and that we are going to do it in 4 phases. The first phase, which we're currently in process, is a desk review and then the second phase that will start in February and May is the community engagement phase. And then the third phase, we are looking to do analysis and reporting, and then followed by the final phase of self-evaluation and continuous feedback. Next slide. So in this first phase, which we're currently in progress, we're reading any and all existing documents that have been drafted by your community, including your COC CE written standards, your governance charter, just to kind of understand how your current coordinated entry system works, your existing operations, your partnerships, and all of those things, your data, which you shared here today. And congrats to you all for all of the wonderful housing placements that took place throughout 2025. So we are in this process we started in November, we're going through January to just remotely review all of the existing documents. And thank you to Vega and Shondell and the team, the COC staff, for providing those documents in a shared platform for us to access. Next slide. And next, this is where partnership come in. You've all already have one of the stronger partnerships we've seen in the community, and we hope to be able to kind of build off your engagement and partnership that already currently exists. And as Natalie stated, have your participation within the stakeholder engagement. So from February 26th through May, we're looking to be on site in your community, conducting engagement through interviews, listening sessions, and visiting any one of the identified on-site access points to kind of just gain some qualitative insights on where your system's strengths and gaps and currently are, and as well as what needs to align better just to be able to, again, enhance all of the work that is currently taking place. Evaluation is not done simply by just sitting at a desk. It's done by really the informants of the people who are directing and providing the services, as well as those who are accessing the services. So we hope to speak with consumers who are utilizing the CE system. We hope to provide shadowing to frontline staff who are doing outreach and case conferencing, and then as well as hosting a listening session for the general public along with CE members to hear, right, from both the internal, where you sitting at the table, you have that insight of how coordinated entry should work, but then also non-housing and non-CLC members, but advocates who may be interested in addressing homelessness, hear what their take is as well in the process, and bring back to you all for to be informed in process improvement going forward. Next slide. And then analysis and reporting that we have identified to draft in June and June through August, where we will then take the feedback, both qualitative and quantitative. We will synthesize that in a report, including the analysis of the input, the refinement of recommendations, and the completion of the final system improvement report. Everything we do, we say evaluation, we really call it a journey because we want this to be a parallel process where we are your extended arm, boots on the ground to do the evaluation process. But the information and the fueling of all of that, we hope that you will take this journey with us to be able to have that input to help refine the system. So all of that input that hopefully once those call for action for participation is extended, all of that input will be put into a final report, which in phase 4 on the next slide, we hope to present as the findings and the recommendation, and to as well as to help deliver a CES self-evaluation tool in September of 2026. One thing that Shondell and Vega really stressed was that, within your community, there's already great collaboration, which we saw that as soon as we came in. There's already great partnership, but there's always opportunities for improvement. And not only that, opportunities for empowerment. And so they really stress the need for a self-evaluation tool so then that as a community, y'all can take the reins going forward to do your own internal self-evaluation and not always have to have outsiders coming in. We're always here for you, but empowerment is that then you own the process from start to finish. And so along with the final report, this self-evaluation tool, we hope will be a dynamic tool, not a static, meaning it sits, but a dynamic that you can internally use on an annual basis to be able to provide that evaluation. And then if you need additional support, we love to come and support as needed. But this as the end result is what we're just hoping to provide at the end of these next few months, that we're going to be with you and you're going to be hearing about the process. So in the next slide, you can always, please feel free. Oh, yeah. We don't have time for questions, but please feel free to always reach out to Shondell or Vega. If you have any questions, they're always in contact with us and can direct it to us. And when that time comes where we're doing the partnership feedback and it's extended for the engagement where we come on site, you're more than happy to communicate with us directly. But again, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this journey in the evaluation of the wonderful work. And I specifically can't wait to come. I'm already excited to come and visit your community in person and hope to be in connection with a few of you. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mesita and Natalie. We appreciate you. We embrace you and we welcome you in. And thank you so very much for this, helping us identify, where hey, ultimately, if we're doing things that could be better and also uplifting the things that we're doing well. So thank you both very much. Again, a copy of these slides will be sent to you and the recording will be uploaded to the Talent NMS site. So you can also have access to Masita and Natalie directly should you choose. And with that, I'm going to hand this off to Natalie Bertsos.
Thank you, Shondell. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to give a brief update and summary about subrecipient monitoring and TA in 2025. 2025 subrecipient monitoring closely followed similar procedures as the COC had carried out last year in 2024, with the exception of carrying out participant file review on site at each project instead of remotely. In 2026, we do hope to make a few changes, which include staggering monitoring reviews over a few months. So not all projects are being monitored around the same time, but also to utilize more risk-based processes with the goal of reducing administrative burden on projects. And so hopefully some of the things to look forward to there, and hoping to offer more relief to our subrecipient projects that do a lot of difficult and hard work. In terms of subrecipient compliance, technical assistance office hours, we did hold several throughout the year, which did include the following topics, which were VAWA requirements for projects, subrecipient monitoring updates, updates to the homeless verification forms that are now being adopted in the coordinated entry process for referrals as well, and rent reasonableness policies and determinations. And while it's not on the slide, I'm looking forward to supporting projects with any changes to guidance and making sure that we can continue to do the good work that everyone's doing with whatever happens with the NOFA. So thank you, and I'll pass it back to you, Shondell.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to say a couple of words and then we'll be moving on into our membership votes. But as the program director of the 3-county COC, I want to take a moment to acknowledge how challenging this season has been for all of us. We are navigating uncertainty, limited resources, and increased needs, all while continuing to show up every day for some of our most vulnerable neighbors across Franklin, Hampshire, and Berkshire counties. I see the weight this work carries, and I also see the resilience, compassion, and commitment that each of you brings to our shared mission. Even in these difficult times, our strength lies in our ability to work together as providers, partners, and community members, grounded in collaboration, equity, and a belief in housing as a human right. By leaning on one another, listening to lived experience, and staying focused on our collective purpose, we are building a system that is stronger and more responsive than any one of us could create alone. While the road ahead is not without challenges, I truly believe there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and together we will continue moving forward to create hope, stability, and lasting change for the people we serve. So to all of you, we see you, we hear you. Again, we call you in, we embrace you, we appreciate you. And I know for a fact that the vulnerable population we serve appreciate all the work that you do as well. And now, we're going to move into membership votes. So the voting agenda today is the election of directors to serve on the board based on open and vacant seats, a review of any proposed changes to the COC governance charter, HMIS charter, and coordinated entry written standards, followed by a vote to incorporate those changes. Some of our board members were not able to be present today due to either illness or other prior commitments. Votes that are being taken and recorded today will also be emailed for voting to those folks so that we can incorporate those and have a complete cast of votes from our whole board of directors. Any other business that our board chooses to put before us will be presented today. So if any of our board members feel the need and have something that they want to address, we will give you time to do that. And with that, The 2026 board slate has been updated per our COC governance charter. The changes that were drafted are highlighted, not here, but in the one that I sent you. And so the seats are as follows. So returning, we have our Berkshire County representative, Justine Dodds. A new representative that we're putting into the board is the Hampshire County rep, which we have invited Donovan Gibbs from the DCC in Northampton to hold that seat. We also have a new Franklin County rep from the Franklin County Sheriff's Department. We have invited Jen Brzezinski, and I hope I didn't butcher your last name, to become a part of the board. A returning member is our homeless advocate, Andy Klatka. A returning member is Patricia Toro, who is a person with lived experience. Our McKinney-Vento Education Liaison is a returning member, Stacy Parsons. Returning member, Pamela Schwartz with the Western Mass Network to End Homelessness. Returning member, Aaron Forbush, who is the ESG representative. Returning member, Heather Roy, who is our domestic violence representative. Returning member, Jason Zamboni, who is a person with lived experience, a member of the board as well, and the YAB kind of person in between, YAB representative.
Peer advocate.
There you go, peer advocate. Thank you. Returning member, Jennifer Derringer, who is our affordable housing advocate. Returning member, Megan McDonough, who is our affordable housing developer. We have added a new seat. That is the change that you will be voting on in our governance charter. That's the only change we've made. We've added the new seat of a faith-based representative. And that representative, let me just see, is Shayna Rodriguez from Catholic Charities. We also have a new college representative who we've invited to join, which is Brenda Evans from UMass. I don't know the whole thing, but UMass. We have returning member Cynthia Ray, who is the Employer Employment Agency representative. Returning member Georgia Walters who is the DCF representative. Our co-chairs Brad from Upside 413 and Gina, who is also our Public Housing Authority seat holder. We have yet to identify a shelter provider. We did have Craig's Doors last year in this seat, but as of right now, this seat is open. So if you are a shelter provider and you are interested, please reach out to Brad, Gina, or myself, and we will walk you through the throes of and responsibilities of being on the board, the COC board. Our funded project representatives and other representatives from the community, returning member Mike Hagmeyer and Steve Connors, who represent the veterans, Kathy Keyser from Lewison House, Bill Ringwood from Dial South, Courtney Kimball from Construct, Shaylin Kempema from Wayfinders, Dave Christopoulos from Hilltown, Emily English from Gandara. We have a new member, but not new agency, Colby O'Brien, who is replacing Jeffrey because he retired for Making Opportunities Count, or MOC. And then our disability rights organization, Stavros Juan Concepcion. And with that, Brad, do you want to come off mute and do your thingamajiggy to accept? Or
Yeah, I think Phil made a motion.
Okay.
And I will second that motion. So then what I'm looking for, first of all, are there any comments? We'll start with that. I can't see you all, but I'm going to assume there are not. It's pretty non-controversial. And then all those in favor, you can signify by putting your thumbs up one way or another, virtually or otherwise. Okay. All those opposed, it would be a thumb down, I guess. Okay, I think it's unanimous. So that's how I'm eyeballing it.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna hope I can share the screen again. Did I share? Yeah, I did. Okay, all right, moving on. Thank you. Again, the only change to the governance charter was that we added into the board slate and roster a faith-based representative seat. Oh wait, hold on a second. Did I miss somebody? Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I think I missed somebody.
Are we missing Betsy?
We're missing Betsy. Anyways, Betsy is a returning member, and also because I just saw your wonderful face, Christy O'Brien from CHD, we nominated her last year, so she's also a returning member.
I mean, I was going to reach out about the shelter representative, but if you all want to re-vote on me, I'd be happy to be invited.
Okay.
Sorry. I was going to take it offline, Shondell, but thank you. That's really
No problem. But she is a returning member. She was under the other representatives, but if she's here, she's ready for it. She wants to be it. Brad, do you see any, and Phil, since you guys were the ones that moved it forward, do you see or opposed with us moving Christy into the shelter provider seat?
No, we can just have a friendly amendment to the original motion and just do it in a very informal way and just move it forward. Let's just move it forward.
All right, thank you. I also forgot about this, and I'm sorry. We have a very informal, communicative way of doing things collaboratively in these spaces, but I did send, because of all the NOFO, I did send the board report and all of the changes forward to the board 2 days prior to this annual meeting. So we did have to have a move to accept in the time that I sent it. Phil, I know you're sending daggers through the screen, so I'm not even going to look. To accept that you received that 2 days prior to the meeting, instead of 10. So I don't know how you do that.
So that sounds like a motion. We'll say that Phil, you made that motion, it sounds like. Phil made the motion, I seconded it. Again, we'll do thumbs up for all those in favor. Great. Anyone opposed? I'm going to do a conversation on this. Anyone opposed? No? Okay. I think it's unanimous. All right.
All right, thank you so very much. All right, and then just like for the governance charter again, we did bring, because of the NOFO and the proposed changes to the NOFO and things that were stipulated as things that we needed to have on our board of directors or representation on our board of directors. We added in a faith-based representative seat, but last year we had a couple of people that left their positions. So we had open representative seats in Franklin and Hampshire County. One of those stipulations was bringing in law enforcement in some way, shape, or form and have them represented on our board. We did not create a law enforcement specific seat, but we did invite the Franklin County Sheriff's Reentry Project, reentry team, and the Sheriff's Department team in general, because they do so much good work within our homeless response system here in Franklin County. They're part of our coordinated entry system. They're assessors, and they're present within our system of care. So we put them into the Franklin County seat. So again, where not necessarily we have a law enforcement dedicated seat, but rather we included them into already represented seats. So if we could have
okay. So I think the motion is that, and I appreciate the law enforcement background information, but I think the amendment simply is right, that we are adding, the only change to the governance charter is an acceptance of amending the governance charter to add a faith-based representative seat. So that's the motion we're entertaining. Does someone want to make that motion? Feel like Phil's going to make it again. Phil, I see you made it already.
I actually made it already in the chat.
Okay, great. Do I have a second? Someone going to second that? I'm not. Oh, okay, great.
Stacy second.
Okay, great. Stacy second. All right. I don't think it warrants discussion. I'm making that decision. All those in favor, again, thumbs up. Anyone opposed? I don't think there is anyone opposed, hopefully. So it passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, next is, I'm going to hand this off to Michelle.
Thanks, Shondell. So pretty quickly, the only changes that we're voting on for the HMIS charter today are that we did remove some mentions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Particularly for the HMIS charter, we removed statements like that we are evaluating diversity and equity in terms of racial disparities reports, just to avoid being a target for the administration and to comply with executive orders as we need to, but it's not necessarily our intention to stop doing these things specifically, but they're going to be removed from the charter.
Okay, so again, I am gonna and I like Phil's language. So Phil is reluctantly moving that forward, the amendment forward. Do we have a second on that?
Stacy.
I see someone. Did someone do it? I probably missed them.
Stacy.
Okay, Stacy seconded it. Okay, I'm gonna give it. This is one where before we go on to a vote, is there any discussion on this at all?
I will just say that it's hard to make decisions like this. It really is. But we don't want to create added targets or become targets to this administration. We've seen how COC speaking up and being very involved, very evident in the community, like in the front facing, how they've been criticized and just destroyed in the community because of this administration, and we don't want to become a target. We aren't going to stop. This is not our values. This is not what we represent. We just have to make it in writing a change. Stacy.
I guess you might have already answered it a little bit. Even though this is like we've removed the language from our documents, how are we ensuring that if we all quit tomorrow, that the practice still stays in place?
So
I'm not saying we are, but if we did.
So things like targeted universalism also continue this work in a different lane, right? Mm-hmm. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I just don't want it to get lost if we all disappeared. If it comes out of our documents, like we all know how we work together, but if it's not in the documents, like how would anybody who comes behind us understand that this is how we work?
Yeah, I think
I want to just make sure it lives on somewhere, even if it has to be tactical.
Yeah, and what, quite frankly, it does exist on our Talent and LMS website for different things that we do. But what I will say is, I'm going to uplift something that Phil is saying in the chat, which is that it's same work, just different words.
Okay, so I'm going to move us forward here because we're running short on time. All those in favor, you know the routine by now. So thumbs up. Anyone opposed? Don't think I see anyone. So unanimously passed.
All right, and then I think let me just really quick. Yeah, we're almost done. This is the last one. Coordinated entry written standards. Natalie.
Okay, so there's a few changes to the coordinated entry written standards. So a lot of them are mostly clarifying procedures that have already kind of been in place but needs to be updated in document, which included updating language around how to protect and maintain confidentially for DV case conferencing, as well as assessments for anybody who's experienced domestic violence. There are also updates where DEI related language was updated to include language about targeted universalism. So in the same nature as Phil said, same work, different words, it still clarifies that, you know, groups will experience different challenges and barriers, and that they need to be still targeted in those approaches, but remove the words racial equity in a couple of places and then replaced it with that more elaborate language from targeted universalism. One of the other more significant changes that I think this group would be interested in is that there were a lot of references to housing first in the document, and we have updated that to low barrier housing. That doesn't mean that any project that had applied and was awarded funds that had committed to housing first needs to stop doing that work. We actually just elaborated more that all projects need to have a low barrier approach, and also elaborated on when it is not permissible to require treatment, which is both true under both housing first and low barrier housing, that only projects that are targeted can do that. And minor changes to coordinated entry procedures just for clarity, and updated references to eligibility for permanent supported housing, rapid housing, transitional housing. We do anticipate there will be more updates needed in the next board meeting, just because there will be the CE evaluation, maybe not in the next board meeting, sometime in the future, along with any prioritizations that we need to add when the 2025 NOFO is re-released, if some participants would be, you know, at risk of homelessness again, and adding prioritization for them to enter transitional housing, for example.
Okay, so I see both a motion by Phil, a second, where I see the second by Jason. So I'm going to also ask if there's any discussion, and maybe by way of comment, because we're running short on time. I am that nerd that reads through all these things, and the coordinated entry information is pretty dense, actually, and it made me think at some point down the road, because it's going to evolve between the consultant and the changing landscape, that might be an opportunity for more extensive training across both agencies that are more actively involved with the COC and ones that are not. Just something to think about. But it is interesting, and it's important because it guides how people access those resources, and so it's something that people should be familiar with. So I see Stacy, and yeah.
Not to hold up the meeting, but just something that I noticed that was just concerning to me on the confidentiality is that there seems to be an allowable for up to 4 breaches before someone gets suspended. And that just causes me a little bit of anxiety because it's someone's personal information. And if someone's been caught 4 times, they've probably done it more than that. So I don't want to hold up the vote, but I would just request that get looked at and tightened up, just because in my day job, I see a lot of scams and fraud. And I think if someone once is a mistake, twice is a choice. If you're doing it 3 and 4, I don't think we need to be telling people not to share people's information more than twice.
That was a change that we introduced last year where it didn't exist at all. There are other steps though, right, and other actions that are taken. So it's not that actions aren't taken, and the breaches are still within where there are at least releases and other things. We just have that extra added step and clarification of what that process is. Shondell, do you have more comments on that?
No, I just think that, you know, taking into consideration, I think that we can, the evaluation might tell us something to, you know, help us to go into a different direction. But I definitely think that Natalie has set up a really good system right now. And as Stacy suggested, maybe tightening it up a little bit more will be helpful for our just to keep folks safe and their information safe. So thank you.
Thanks. So I'm going to entertain the vote. You know the drill, thumbs up. Okay, anyone opposed? Thumbs down. Okay, looks like it's unanimous too.
All right, well, again, I just want to say thank you all for being in attendance. I know we went 7 minutes over, but considering everything that we shared, I just want to say thank you to all our presenters, thank you to my staff, and thank you to all of you for being present. I am going to stop recording for this.